You know, I always say this, but I really would not or could not have my life any other way. For those of you who are out there who knows what I'm talking about. I mean, you could just stand up. You could just feel what I'm saying here. I mean, for those of you who are biracial, for those of you who are interculturally racial, if you want to say, for those of you who grew up one way but is taught another, those of you who basically grew up with combining two different cultures, two or more cultures together, you understand what I'm saying? You know, I enjoy and even as an adult, like I enjoy learning more about mi gente, learning more about my people, learning more about my ancestry. And at first, I'm gonna be honest, I was not too interested in learning about history, my history of my ancestors from Africa. I wasn't too concerned about that. That wasn't something that came to me because I assumed that when people saw me anyway, they would just assume I knew the history. But to be honest, growing up in Stockton, California, when I went to school, people saw my mother. My mother growing up appeared to be Hispanic herself, although, like I said, my mother's not Hispanic. But she appeared to be Hispanic herself. So a lot of people was like, okay, wait a minute, like, okay, by the way, I'm the darkest out of all of my family, too. Out of all my immediate family, I'm the darkest. My sister is really light. My two brothers is really light. My mother is light. I'm the darkest out of my immediate family. Gag on that. But, like, we was looked upon weirdly, very weirdly. Even when people who knew us knew that my mother was part white, people still looked at us like we were different. They treated us like we were different. When black people were talking about their black side or their African history, they didn't include none of us into it. I still remember to this day. I mean, I talked to a few black people. I've friends with a few black people, or should I say African American people. But most of my friends have been Latino, Hispanic. Most of my friends have been white. For the simple fact is, I can relate to them. I can relate to the Latinos, Hispanics because, hello, that's what I am. I love my culture. I love being me. And then to the whites, like I said, I don't know if we related, but to me, they didn't look at me as a stereotypical minority. And that's just how it is. And one part in general, I'll never, ever, 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 ever forget this. I was working at a job, and one of my managers was hurt. Okay, she was hurt by a black guy, African American guy. Who knows? He could have been Haitian. He could have been Jamaican. Doesn't matter. She was hurt by a African descendant person. Okay. And she went up and shuffled him because he was trying to steal something from our place. And she just manhandled him. And he pushed her out the way, and she got hurt. And I immediately come running from the back because Amelia, oh my God, ooh, Amelia was letting me know, she was letting me know in Spanish, basically, Tamara's out there and she's getting hurt. She's getting hurt. And I'm just like, wow. So I run out there, and finally, everything has ended by the time I run up to the front. And I asked her, I said, Tamara, what happened? Are you okay? And she said, honey, real seriously, some you know the word, Nigger, pushed me, and now I'm hurt. And that's exactly what she said. And she said it without assuming. And I use that as an example of just how, like I said, that people who here in California, I know on YouTube, there's a lot of people that say, well, if I saw you, I would have thought you were a black girl. If I saw you, I would have thought you were a black girl. I mean, I get that from the guys I date, too, who are Mexicans. Because, like I said, I will not date a Puerto Rican guy because I feel like somehow, some way we're related. Because that I now don't have that many people. So could you imagine how many people lived on the island 100 years ago? So I will not date a Puerto Rican. A Dominican, because some Dominicans are Puerto Rican descendants too. A Cuban, because some Cubans are also Puerto Rican descendants too. Probably not much, but some are. Um, so, where was I at? So, like, they call me negrita. They call me negra. It's not insulting to me. It's good to me. It's a cute way of calling me their little black girl. And like I said, I'm not insulted by it in any way. Celia Cruz, and I love this girl. I used to be so obsessed with her because not only is she Afro-Latino, but she's also a full-blooded African Afro-Latino. And that's what I loved about her. And she was so enriched in the culture, in her culture, her Cuban culture, that regardless of what people saw her as, she was proud. She was proud to be Cuban. She was also proud to be seen as um, as a black girl. So the same thing with me. It doesn't bother me that people consider me or look at me as a black girl. Like I said, I know me growing up. I know what I am, and I know what my household is growing up. Like I said, you cannot be black or you cannot be African American if your mother is not classified as African American and your father is not classified as African American. You cannot be African American. Just pure plain blank. Like I said, a lot of times growing up in school, it was a little hard for me. It was a little difficult for me, not only because I felt different, because, me being a transsexual, but also because I couldn't relate to really anybody. And the people that I could relate to didn't look like me. They looked at like, Selena, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm just using an example. They looked at stereotypically, and it was kind of like, okay, you could relate, but not really. Especially like growing up, there was no Puerto Ricans there was no Dominicans, there was no Cubans, there was no Panamanians. Now that I'm older and I'm branching out, there's a lot of Dominicans, a lot of Cubans, a lot of Puerto Ricans, like around this area in LA, in Hayward, in Sacramento, in Vallejo, in San Jose, in San Francisco, in Half Moon Bay, just all over. It's a lot of us. And from what I understand, too, they opened up a Boricua Salsera downtown. So, my culture, or should I say the culture, is growing. But growing up, it was not easy. And like I said, it's easier now. But like I said, I just wanted to make these videos because it just seems weird to me that an African American will be speaking up for a Latino or Hispanic. I just don't understand. Because you feel like someone looks like you, because you feel like someone acts like you or talk like you, that they are you. In reality, they're not you. You were probably taught how to cook fried chicken and collard greens and mashed potatoes and et cetera, and it probably was forced down your throat about your African history. I always hear African Americans here in Stockton especially saying, black. I'm black because I'm black. The white man don't like because I'm black. Everybody's trying to hold me down. I'm black. They don't like because I'm black. Like, it's always that. When you're a Latino or Hispanic, it's not taught to, they're going to hold you down because you're this or you're that, you're that, you're that. You especially being mixed, you're taught everything. And like I said, my history is not black history, if you want to call it that. My history is African history. My history is Spanish history. My history is German history. My history is Indian history, Native American history. Like I said, all of my cultures, all of my heritage, I'm familiar with all of them. I know the foods. I know how to cook the foods. I know the languages. Most of them when it's spoken to me, I know what they're saying. A lot of times I cannot communicate back because I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I know it moderately. And that's just how it is, I know if it came down to it, I can do it. I do it. And that's just how it is. And ultimately, that's what determines who you are. It's not what you look like. And like I said, that's why I want to make this video, because it's like African-American guy is making a video, and then there's an African-American girl that was making a video, and I'm just like, okay, because you have direct ancestry to Africa, and you know nothing else but your African and your American heritage, that don't mean that we're just like you, baby.